I have one.
Siri, stop randomly triggering on this thing.
Siri doesn't really randomly trigger on mine too, and you'd think that would cause more power degradation. Power loss.
That is so annoying. The EU?
Yep, you know what they're doing?
Something that probably goes along the lines of EU.
Yes.
What a bad joke. Any of you watching the video version of the podcast, in case you're wondering why my video has cut out all of a sudden, it's because I am holding something up to the EU right now.
Yeah, he's holding a middle finger.
They earned it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the iTunes Family Podcast. As always, I am one of the hosts, Teddy Maggart from the iTunes Fanboy.
My name is Alpha DeWolf.
And once again, we are joined without Tabcat 406, but this should be the last time without him for quite a while, because if we record an episode next week, he will be coming back for that. We'll probably be able to make it to that show, which it will be very exciting to be Full House once again.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been over a month at this point.
No, it's been over 2 months. At least in terms of recording. Because remember the last one we recorded that was Full House was the one with Grant.
What's that I'm hearing? Oh, that's weird. I heard some cracking in the walls.
Yeah.
That's not good.
So it's been a while since we've been Full House.
Yeah, it's been a minute. But the news keeps coming, and did we get some interesting drops that confirm a lot of the rumors and also confirm fake rumors? I don't know.
Alright, so Our first topic that we should get started talking about is the iPhone 15 Pro.
Oh, jeez. You know, I'm going to let you start explaining your thoughts on this because you probably... Mine are definitely going to be a lot more negative and such, so how about we start off on a positive note?
Well, okay. I personally like the iPhone 15 Pros. I think it has some solid upgrades like the USB-C port, to be fair. Lightning.
Finally!
For me. What other stuff? I do like the titanium edges. That'll make the phones a lot lighter. Wish they were fully rounded, but, I guess we get what we get and we can't throw a fit because they'll go back to curved eventually. The camera did get some nice upgrades, and I do like the periscope zoom lens on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. That's really nice. I actually really like the
technically not a periscope.
Well, whatever the new zoom lens is, I like it.
Yeah, it's interesting, but
I also like the new. I also like the new what else do I like about 15? I don't really like the color lineup actually.
Really?
Yes, on the 15 Pro because the colors are actually pretty nice colors in my opinion. Now, granted, I do wish they could get rid of the gray and just have blue, black, white, and oh my god, it would be so nice if we get a product red iPhone 15 Pros. That would make the color lineup for Pros more complete.
Yeah. There's something that makes me really worried. According to Apple, their natural titanium color that they described is supposed to look like... It's supposed to actually look like natural titanium. I know what natural titanium looks like. It's literally another shade of gray. Apple's website is making it more gold on purpose. It's not anywhere near gold, nor Starlight as that natural titanium color is that Apple's trying to sell us on. It's nothing like that. It's just a deeper shade of gray compared to white gray.
Also, I'm not an expert in this, but do you remember the PowerBook G4 Titanium?
A little bit. I've never seen it in person.
Neither have I. Oh boy, I want to get one of those someday, but I just don't have the time to collect vintage Macs.
Yeah, there's other important things to be acquiring.
Yeah, but the PowerBook G4...
Like a proper MacBook.
Yeah.
I've heard of the Power Mac, or PowerBook Titanium, whatever it was. I don't remember the exact name. But yeah, I remember that thing. Luke Miani was the one who allowed me to discover it.
Alright, so do you know what happened to the edges and just kind of the whole housing of that PowerBook?
Didn't it scratch a lot?
It not only scratched a lot, it chipped a whole lot, and the paint wore off on it, especially the edges.
Well, that's just paint, but I wonder if it has something to do with paint bonding to the metal itself.
And it's probably more, and it got to be such a problem, and the hinges also snapped on the PowerBook G4 Titaniums, even when they were brand new.
That's not good.
Nowadays, that's not. In fact, if you go on eBay and look at PowerBook G4 Titaniums, you can see how they all look.
I bet they don't look all that great in terms of condition.
No, they do not.
I'm willing to bet those hinges are not made of titanium.
Yeah, they're made of plastic, but the actual titanium parts aren't too bad staying in touch, but the edges, which are made of titanium and with white paint, all of those, they do not look. How these just suddenly go up in value like crazy?
What?
Most of these are now $500 to $700.
That's not worth that much.
The cheapest one I found was $144. It's actually... Oh. I actually found a good deal on one. Oh, the back is absolutely... the black back. The bottom is really atrocious.
So much for a good deal. Anywho, back to iPhones.
But that makes me worried about what could the iPhone 15 Pro's edges or else the backs potentially do that?
Well, in terms of the edges, from how they've describing on how they're actually making it and coloring it, it's not paint. I don't think it's actually paint. It's how they're forming the material itself.
To be fair, the Apple Watch Ultra hasn't really shown many signs of that, and the PowerBook G4 Titanium showed signs of that immediately, so not long
Well, that's because, unlike the Apple Watch Ultra, the PowerBook was painted like standard paint, placed on top of the metal itself. So to me, I'd expect that to chip like crazy, but what Apple's trying to do, and this is what they've done with all the other iPhones, including the aluminum and the stainless steel ones, they literally turn the color of the metal itself, whatever color it is they want. And this includes the new titanium on the Apple Watch and the iPhones.
Well, now we know that there aren't that many limitations to but now that we're seeing more colors on the iPhone 15, okay. Actually, that sounds like a fair move then, but if we're seeing more colors on the iPhone 15 Pro, then maybe Apple should think about bringing more colors to the Apple Watch Ultra 2, which I guess...
Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't do that.
Yeah.
You saw my reaction in my recap video when I talked about the Apple Watch Ultra 2. I'm like, we got a new watch face, new watch bands.
Yes,
Did they change anything with this?
The motion button, which the Series 9 got too, though we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah, but aside from the things that the Series 9 got, did they really change anything with the watch? Aside from the watch face and the watch bands?
No. And you can change.
Oh, I
the
did
watch
miss that
face
3000
too.
nits display.
Yeah.
Other than that, like, I wouldn't even consider it. Those changes that they made are so minor.
I'm actually interested in the Apple Watch Ultra 2, though. The only reason is because my Apple Watch Series 7's battery isn't the greatest, so I just want the longer battery life of the Ultra. Though even then, that's not why. That's not the priority of my investment.
Yeah.
Because priority.
I still don't know how your watch is barely surviving, because I'll go 2 days on mine, and it seems like we have identical usage and identical battery degradation.
I have one.
Siri, stop randomly triggering on this thing.
Siri doesn't really randomly trigger on mine too, and you'd think that would cause more power degradation, power loss.
That is so annoying. Why is it still broken, Apple? Why is Siri on the Apple Watch this broken? She functions just fine on all of my other devices. Heck, she functions even better on my HomePod Mini. But on the Apple Watch, no. She's totally broken. What's the deal?
I don't know.
It makes no sense to me how it's this broken.
I don't use Siri, so I don't really care. Yeah,
So, you got any other thoughts on the 15s before I start rambling and ranting?
Oh, yes, I have one more thought about the iPhone 15 Pro before we move on to standard 15s, or before we move on to standard 15s, or before you start rambling. The A17 Pro chip. Why is it named that if there's no standard A17 chip?
This just boggles my mind. Okay, if you don't want to have the Pro Series and the non-Pro Series share the exact same chip, fine. I've got no qualms with that. But this marketing makes no sense at all.
Apple should just Apple could at least just do what they did with the S7 and the S8 chip and name the chip in the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus the A17 chip.
Yeah, like last year, if they wanted to do this, then why didn't they do A16, which is basically the Pro version of the A15 with Sharpie written on it? And then the new chip that came in the 14 Pros, the actual A16, call that A16 Pro. Like, wouldn't that be better marketing?
Or else just call it the A17. Or else just call it the A. This way, you can't technically say that your iPhone 15 has year-old hardware in it.
Yeah, just... This marketing makes no sense.
This is really starting to make me wonder if there's ever going to be any other Apple Vision devices or not, or if it's just going to be the Apple Vision Pro, and that's just what they named it.
Well, I guess we can officially confirm Pro is now a meaningless word in marketing.
At least for Apple it is.
Yeah. Just, this is so... Why can't we have names that actually make sense?
When my grandmother was going to upgrade to the iPhone 14 a few months ago, she was looking at the compare charts on Apple's website, and she said, okay, Tennies, there's some stuff that I don't understand. And I was like, sure, what is it? Well, some differences I get and some she said she got and some differences she didn't. And one of them was that she didn't know what a Super Retina XDR display was.
You know, I'm going to be honest. I really hate how they rebrand literally every single technology that we know. OLED, HDR, it's the common term in the industry. Why do they have to rebrand it and act like it's something totally new that they invented? When the truth is it's not.
Because they're Apple.
It just confuses more people, and I find it misleading quite often. So, yeah, their marketing has now gotten out of hand to the point where if you don't pay close enough attention to it, you might be misled about something. So, yeah, I thought Apple was this quality brand. Where's the quality? I'm not seeing it anymore.
The quality exists, but the marketing doesn't.
The marketing has no quality. The software is, well, we have yet to see 17 full release, but as of right now, iOS 16, that's lacking quality.
It's not lacking.
The software on iPads is definitely lacking quality.
Is not lacking quality. Just lacks a calculator app.
Final Cut, Logic.
Those lack quality.
Swift Playgrounds.
Those lack quality. Those apps lack quality. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't. What's going on? They're really starting to slip up in some areas, and to me, Apple should not be doing stuff like this. I get it, mistakes happen, but I mean, to the point where it gets this bad, that's what I'm starting to question.
I'm trying to think back of older time of Apple's history to see when they've had bad marketing. Oh yeah, Apple's Pippin game console. That was marketed with having an included education game. That didn't help sell
Someone tells me it didn't.
Even Stephen Hackett. Or you can go ahead.
I was going to say, the best marketing that I remember they've ever done had to have been the I'm a Mac, I'm a PC ads.
Oh, those ads were... Apple should bring those back.
Because they were true on point. They weren't misleading.
They're still not misleading.
And it was also convenient at the time. Yeah. They're still not... Well, for the most part, they're not misleading to this day. The whole Windows Boot Camp thing might be the only thing you might be a bit concerned about because, well... We have Microsoft to blame for that, actually. But, I mean, at the time, they weren't misleading, and Microsoft really started sucking so bad, it just made them even better.
Microsoft... At least Apple's still doing better than Microsoft.
Yeah.
As today in one of my classes where we're learning how to use Word, which... I know how to use Word, which I did not realize that was what the class was about. When I signed up for it, I was trying to... What was I trying to do? I was trying to align the text in a table to be to the left, and it refused to align. And I also couldn't change the height of the text box like the instructions said either.
And you'd think this be simple. This be so simple, right?
Yeah, it just refused to work, and it refused to work on a lot of my other classmates' computers too.
And then we get to the issues where you try to print the dang thing.
Printing thing.
45 minutes to print one essay.
That was a very ridiculous... That was still right. Did you ever... That's a way too much time.
Yeah, once I walked back in, the English teacher, everyone had left like 15 minutes after, no, 15 minutes before I even got to the final computer to start printing it. So everyone was back at the classroom. I'm still waiting for the computer to communicate with the printer because, of course, 15 minutes after I push print, it then finally does it. But I just walk in and then the teacher's like, "Where were you?" "Printing an essay." "It took you 45 minutes to print an essay?" Yeah, it did.
That reminds me of one time when I was in third grade. And my teacher, and I was the last kid in the bathroom, and then my teacher told me, "Okay, we'll be waiting right out by the office." And so you and one of my friends who was there too, he was like, "Okay, you guys just go ahead and go on up to the office once you guys are done in the bathroom." So we washed our hands and we got out of the bathroom. My class was not by the office.
Nope.
And so we looked all around the school, mind you, 3 times for around 20 minutes until I figured out where they were. And then my teacher told me, "I knew Teddy would figure it out, but why did you take so long? Guys, take so long to get back? Maybe because you didn't tell us where you were." And she was like, "Well, I figured you would figure it out."
Or even better, where you were going.
Figured you'd figure it out, since the other teacher's room that she had taken the rest of the class into. Because they were really close friends, I made jokes about them I made a joke once about them being twins. So maybe she figured that I could figure it out based off of that, but it still took me 20 minutes, and I never figured that would be where they were.
Yeah.
We even went back to our classroom once just to see, okay, maybe they're back now? Nope. Yes. It's sad to me how people fail to realize the ignorance of how people are just so ignorant when it comes to Windows.
Yeah, it's true. Earlier today, I had to get on to customer support. It was not good.
Mind you, you're a tech expert.
Yeah. So the problem was the SolidWorks license. The way we handle it is the company shares one license for SolidWorks because it's really expensive. So we swap it around between computer to computer when everyone needs it. Problem was, Windows failed to allow SolidWorks to realize it was connected to the internet so we could swap it around, and it refused to deactivate. So it was stuck on one computer. And so I had to get on tech support to just get that thing to deactivate. And why is tech support the way it is today? It is so terrible.
Tech support.
You have to. You gotta sit on the. It doesn't matter what industry you call. If you ever need to call customer support, it is always going to be a pain in your tush to actually get what you need to accomplish. And honestly, really the first step that I have to fight through first when dealing with customer support, it's getting to a live person.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
They make it so difficult. And the way that a lot of these tech support people, the way they handle it is with the robo systems. Oftentimes, they'll try directing you towards what might be your problem, except that once you actually get to, all right, here's the problem. We got things explained. Take me to the person who seems like they would be specialized in this area. Oh, we're sorry. That function's not available right now. Please hang up and go to the website.
So you just
this is tech support!
Tech support.
When you go to a website, Well, because usually you go to the manufacturer's website for tech support because you're calling about their product. You go to their website to find their phone number. And oftentimes, the website makes it difficult to even find the phone number. With Amazon, I literally have to Google it because Amazon makes it impossible to find their phone number. So it's already difficult enough to try to find the company's phone number so you can call support, and then they make you go through this whole robo maze that will dump you out definitely not at the right place, to the point where most of the time they'll just hang up on you. Either that, or they'll just say, to get solutions or customer support, please go back to the website. Like, when you go through the website to find the number only for it to tell you to go back to the website, you've done goofed yourself.
Oh, gee. This irritates me so... That is so annoying because Apple support isn't quite like that, but... quite that bad, but all other tech support, or even just support in general, customer support in general, is just so bad to the point where I want to avoid it as much as possible.
Yeah. So, just... I know that many people say Apple support is not the best, but when you compare it to all other customer support options from any industry, Apple looks like the king in this industry. Just like how the iPad Pro looks like it's the king in the tablet industry, but tablets suck.
That is true. Well, that's true in your perspective.
So, yeah, customer support. I hate dealing with it because they make it near impossible to find the phone number. And the reason why you call support is because you want to speak with a human, and they make it near impossible to do that. With Amazon, with Amazon and FedEx, those are two common customer supports I have to call, unfortunately. Every single time, I'm glad that their robo system asks this. Is there anything else I can help you with? Get me an agent. Only then, after a bunch of nonsense of trying to go through their robo system, wasting my time, only then I have to wait for it to ask, is there anything else I can help you? Sometimes if I say, get me an agent, it'll actually get me to an agent. Other times, it'll be like, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. And then we gotta go through the whole maze again. And oftentimes, at this point, I don't care where I go down the maze. My first goal is just to get to a person. It can even be in the wrong department. I don't care. I'm just trying to get to a person so that way I can tell them, hey, I have this type of issue. Instead of trying to go through your absolutely god-awful support robo system, can you just transfer me to that department directly?
And more importantly, as tech support is such a common issue that we've actually, is that Tabby, when he was on the when he was called T-Mobile tech support, it took him he was on for, I think, on call for 5 hours.
Yeah.
And mind you, even when a guy did respond, he complained that he was Mike Sievert when he was definitely not Mike Seifert.
Yeah. Isn't this terrible that this is customer support? This is the standard for customer support?
They should make it. Here's how all companies should do it. And here's when I grow up and create my own tech company. This is how tech support is. My tech support will go. Once we get big enough, I'll hire a bunch of people dedicated to manning the tech support, so that way when you call it, you immediately get to people. And then as a result, they can transfer you to the people in the right department.
Yeah, I want a human operator. Dell, at least, out of all the other support in terms of the computing industry, Dell is one of the few companies out there that actually has human operators. That is great. When I call, I don't want to deal with robo-directory nonsense. I want to speak to a person, no BS. And it's sad that the majority of the industry doesn't do this. Apple support, you do have to go through robo-directory land, but at least typically, I've never been kicked off of a call or had to fight my way just to get to some random department.
That is true.
But yeah, this whole just, and if you have to do robo directory instead of hiring a bunch of human operators, here's how you do it, guys. For sales, press 1. For tech support, press 2. For whatever, just direct single keys directly to the department. No more subcategories. No more specific inquiries about this type of stuff. No. I want to call, if you really want to break it up to different departments like that, I'll only allow you one opportunity for the dial pad, where I press 1 to go here, press 2 to go here, press 3 to go here.
I think that's actually a really good idea, since then you don't have to have human operators manning that area.
That's fine. And I know other customer support robo systems where they're literally like, for sales, press 1. For something else, press 2. For tech support, press 3. It's taking you directly to these departments.
When I called Apple support about this AirPods case that still has juice in it that Betty destroyed, they just had me confirm that was me on my devices, and then they went on to, and then I just had to be on call just for a few minutes for a minute or so until like 3 minutes just to get to a representative, and then I got to a representative, and then I was able to explain my issue, and then I was able to get the link to buy my replacement AirPods case.
Yeah, Apple makes it so simple compared to, you go to Dassault's website, you find the number wherever it is, you call it, you go through Robo Directory land at least 5 times after being hung up 5 times. Then you get to a person who tells you, oh, I'm sorry, we can't help you for, I've got no idea why, but evidently they had to give me a phone number to this third-party retailer who actually sold us the software. And only then we called them up, and again, had to go through Robo Directory land. Just, why is this the standard for customer support?
I really don't know, but on the brief topic of
this is an embarrassment.
On the brief topic of AirPods cases, what do you think about Apple adding USB-C to AirPods Pro 2 with their new case alongside, I think, lossless audio?
Once I've discovered I got a bit of a problem at the moment with my AirPods Pro. Not the fact that they had that same issue I've been having every 6 months, but I haven't been using them that much.
Why not?
Well, for the most part, I can't use them at the office that much, except under extreme dire situations for the noise canceling and such. But because specific reasons going on at the office, we're not allowed to have earbuds in our ears anymore, despite that it was okay originally, but now we can't. So now I don't use them anymore. Basically, the only time I use my AirPods Pro is when I'm doing stuff outdoors, but I'm not doing much outdoors as of late. So, yeah, for the most part, I've been using these AirPods Max because they sound better. The battery lasts longer. The noise canceling and transparency hasn't broken yet. So I found myself using these even more. But I'm sure once I actually have the need to use earbuds again, then I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up buying the new AirPods Pro anyways. Though there's something weird about these new AirPods Pro.
They weren't really,
aside from just the case.
They weren't really announced at the event.
Not only that, but there's something weird going on with them.
What?
Supposedly, with Vision Pro, and you do have to buy the new AirPods Pro 2. Like, again, their marketing department, this is even extra confusing. Supposedly, these new AirPods Pro that ship with the USB-C charging case have the ability for lossless audio playback with Vision Pro.
What about with other devices?
Nope.
No one cares.
Not only that, but they still call them AirPods Pro 2, but they actually did make some changes to the internals.
Really, there should be four. Really, we should be on the 4th generation AirPods Pro at this point, because AirPods Pro 1, the original AirPods Pro 1 2019, that when they updated the AirPods Pro 1 to have MagSafe, when the AirPods Pro 2, which should be...
That was literally
AirPods
just
Pro
a charging
3.
case.
And
The MagSafe thing was literally just a change in the charging case. The earbuds actually remained the same.
Yeah, but now the earbuds aren't the same, so...
But they're still calling them AirPods Pro 2, which makes no sense to me.
They should be AirPods Pro 3.
Again, I hate Apple's marketing department now. It is so... None of this makes any sense.
Speaking of tie-ins with the Apple Vision Pro, the iPhone 15 Pro Max, 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max can supposedly shoot 3D video to view on an Apple Vision Pro.
I will never be using that.
Like, I'm not this Apple trying to get into the future of 3D is just nuts, because, mind you, every tech company, every few decades this happens. Every few decades tech companies get all hyped up for 3D. Tech enthusiasts get all hyped up for 3D, but then it fails because people don't like 3D in tech.
Not only that, some people cannot see 3D, like, I don't know, yours truly?
Yeah, you can't see 3D.
I cannot.
And even I've never watched pure 3D video, so I don't know for sure, but wouldn't 3D just look a little bit... Wouldn't 3D videos just look a little weird?
The truth is, I can't put any commentary towards that because I don't know what 3D looks like. I've never seen anything 3D. So...
That is true.
But, yeah, just... This is a feature I am 100% certain I am never going to use. Because I literally cannot make use of it.
One more note on the iPhone 15 Pro is that Tabby has officially decided that he will be buying an iPhone 15 Pro.
I figured he would.
Yeah, he buys a new iPhone every year, and even though he could buy 15 Pro Max now because it's lighter, because it's made of lighter material, so the weight of it probably wouldn't hurt his wrist. He still.
I wanted to say, wasn't that his biggest complaint?
Yeah, that was. But he still decided to buy a 15 Pro because the 6.1 inch form factor was tried and true for him. I know.
Too small for me.
And when have Tabby's phones been tried and true for him? Because granted, he's had a lot better of an experience, to be fair, he's gotten his 14 Pro replaced a lot less than his 13 Pro. And his mom's used his old 12 Pro Max for quite a while, so not sure if it's tried and sure or not, but I shouldn't really be speaking on the behalf of another person, as we should wait for Tabby to get back.
Yeah. But all right, so you ready for my thoughts and complaints about the whole 15 Pros?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to start on one positive note. I am so glad this thing finally has USB-C.
So am I.
I am also very glad that they didn't just change the port like they did on the regular 15 series. It's USB 3.1, 10 gigabits per second. And the thing is, now it really almost feels like even closer to cinema grade cameras because of its ability to record now ProRes at 60 FPS, 4K 60 FPS ProRes.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's cool. Like at that point, now I basically threw out the entire idea of getting a Blackmagic if I ever wanted a cinema camera. Now I'm actually, if I want a cinema camera, I think the 15 Pro series is enough to be considered a cinema camera because it's shooting in ProRes, and now you don't have to worry about file sizes because you can record directly to an SSD.
Nowadays, I would end recording for ProRes for the quality, but the reason why I would never record in ProRes even if I got an iPhone 15 Pro is because I still don't like is because ProRes file sizes are so big to the point where they would take forever to export and upload to YouTube.
Well, especially considering you don't have Apple Silicon yet.
Yeah. Well, even if I got an Apple Silicon Mac, it would still take quite a while. That's just time I don't.
The thing is, the final product is going to be the same format that we export to anyways. The benefit of ProRes and these raw formats is better control over the content in post-production.
So basically nothing that benefits me anyway.
Yeah, because you know how I color correct my footage?
Yeah.
ProRes would allow me even more advanced tuning to this.
I personally don't like the look of color corrected footage, which is why I don't use it in my videos, because I like the natural look.
Yep. So yeah, for you, this probably wouldn't make that big of a difference, but for someone like me who color corrects the footage anyways, and other cinematographers who care about that type of stuff, oh, definitely. This makes a big... This is going to make a big impact on the cinema industry.
Maybe more. I wonder if Marquez Brownlee will ever start shooting with an iPhone, or if he'll keep using his Red camera.
Well, he does shoot with iPhone for autofocus. In fact, even his regular car videos on MKBHD, typically he still uses smartphones.
Wonder if he'll start using an iPhone 15 Pro more to shoot all those videos, though.
I'm not so sure. Though I'm willing to bet now that he's probably already got his model by now, knowing him. Because he's the guy who's been using it for 2 weeks. But I'm willing to bet he's going to run a test where he makes a video entirely shot on the iPhone, because I mean, at this point, you can now treat it almost like a cinema camera.
So can I.
So, yeah. I wouldn't be too shocked if he were to make a video testing that out, because, I mean, well, now that we have the ability to expand upon the integrated storage in our devices, that's great.
Finally. I really hope... Ian, you know what I just realized would be perfect for iPhones now?
What?
An SD card slot.
I wouldn't record that type of stuff to an SD card.
What if they were big SD cards, though?
The problem is, like, you know how for the past couple of years, ever since Apple brought the SD card slot back in the MacBook Pro and many other laptop brands who have already had it, they have this super crazy SD card slot that will read really great speeds. But the problem is, they're actually, even to this day, there's no card that will take advantage of those speeds.
Yikes, SanDisk. And maybe Samsung.
Yeah. So the readers are actually capable of reading much faster than they do. But the problem is, there are no cards that support that speed, even to this day.
Maybe they just need to... Maybe SanDisk needs to figure out how to re-engineer SD cards.
I'm not too sure. Maybe we've hit a local maximum because, I mean, first of all, these things are super thin. Especially when you still got to also support the micro SD card. Like, keep in mind, these things are tiny. That, and also, if the iPhone were to get it integrated, I think that would actually be a little more difficult to get the storage out of the device, because then you have to carry a SIM card ejector tool to pop it out.
Oh yeah, they could have it released they could have it released from the phone, similar to how they could do maybe similar to what they used to do back on MacBooks when they had the optical drives, when they could just have it have a slot loading mechanism.
With the amount of space in the iPhone, that wouldn't be possible.
Maybe it would.
Well, if it's motorized, especially, there's no way it's possible. But the plunger system is also, if you were to use the push in and it pops out system, that also requires a lot more space than you would think, because you need room for a spring to compress. You need a hard stop for that spring. Just that, and SD cards are bigger than SIM cards.
Micro SD cards aren't, though.
No, they are too.
Oh.
Micro SD cards are bigger than SIM cards.
I'm thinking of old SIM cards, yeah. I'm most of the time handling old SIM cards, so I'm not used to small sizes SIM cards now.
Yeah, the nano SIM is what we're currently on. Well, actually, no, we're currently on eSIM technology. But even then, eSIM still requires a chip in the phone, so it's basically only going to replace that dedicated area that the physical SIM would occupy. So I don't think there's enough space for one.
You might be right.
So that, and it would be slower, and if you were especially to try to use those higher end formats like ProRes, you're going to end up with corrupted video footage, because there's no way you can record to an SD card fast enough due to SD card technology, especially a micro SD card.
That is true.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening.
But do you have any other thoughts?
The iPhone finally has USB-C. I'm glad that we can make use of it, especially like that. It might allow me to say, if I were to ever buy this phone, it might actually still allow me to buy the base model Pro Max and just record all the road trip videos to that SSD.
How would you get the SSD in the car, though?
Plug it in.
Wouldn't it be hanging down low if you didn't get a separate mount for it?
I could just get a long cable. Have it rest in a cup holder or something like that.
Ah.
And to charge the phone, well, we've got wireless technology for charging.
You could also use You could also use a USB-C splitter, though that might corrupt.
That too.
that might not be nice footage or charging, but there's USB-C splitters.
Well, the adapter just has to be fast enough to support USB 3.1 speeds. So, yeah, it just has to be fast enough to do that. Otherwise, no, there's the likelihood of it getting corrupted. No, that's not likely to happen. So yeah, there's ways to do that. So I don't have to blow a bunch of money on a terabyte iPhone. All right, so yeah, basically the biggest things that I've been a fan of with this release has to do with the USB-C port. I'm very excited about the camera upgrades because they're now allowing you to select specific focal lengths, kind of like a real camera. And for the most part, because the 48 megapixel camera, they're basically treating it like optical, which is it's kind of crazy to think of that, but we got the technology to do it and they're taking advantage of it. So yeah, the cameras I'm excited for, especially the 5x zoom might be a little more than what I'd want personally, because there are even times where I find 3x zoom to be a little excessive. But for the most part, you get a ton of flexibility with that camera. And then one of the few other features about it that made me really excited was I really hope they don't keep this specific to just the 15 series. I hope this comes to a software update to the 14 series. Roadside assistance via satellite.
Oh, yes, I love that feature so much.
The reason why I say this, and I made an emphasis on other videos where I say crash detection isn't that big of a deal, and that's because it's actually not as new of a technology as you think. My car from 2019 has this functionality.
The Pixel 4a from 2020 has it, and it doesn't even have wireless charging.
Yeah, true. So, yeah, but the thing is, I don't need my smartphone to have this ability. My car has crash detection and will phone OnStar if it detects it. So that's why I don't make as big of a deal of crash detection as some others might. Now, if you drive an older car, yeah, most likely you could probably benefit from this. But considering how long this feature's been around, like my car was designed in 2017. So yeah, this feature is not as old as one might think. And from what I've seen, when people buy used cars, the average age of that used car I see people buy is around 7 years old. And the reason why is because the average duration of car ownership, even from brand new, most of the time that most people will hang on to their cars for like 7 years. So that's why when people buy used cars, they'll buy a car that's 7 years old. So considering my car is 4 years old and this feature was integrated 6 years ago, it's approaching 7 years at this point. And I'm assuming that this might be in cars even older than 2017. So, yeah, crash detection, that's why it's not a big deal to me. But roadside assistance, I don't think my car has the ability to communicate with satellites. I mean, I don't even know what satellite radio is that much. I mean, XM satellite radio, they say my car has the ability to communicate with that, but I don't know. From the way it behaves, I don't really think it's over satellites. Because the quality of the audio that comes through is way too good to be over satellite.
In my
it just
region,
makes no sense to me.
It is over satellites because it sounds like garbage.
That's funny because XM radio here actually sounds fairly decent until you get under tree cover. But Like, just... even when it sounds as good as it doesn't make... I don't think it's supposed to sound that good if it were over satellite. So I'm just confused about it, but...
But even so, your cars wouldn't integrate roadside assistance anyway.
Yeah.
I know
that is something I think makes a huge impact, especially if you want to talk about the automotive industry, integrating with that.
And also, you have to mind you with roadside assistance. Well, if your car is not working to access roadside assistance, even if it had it built in.
Yeah, true. In fact, most cars actually don't really have a direct partnership when it comes to calling them or trying to get help. I mean, GM has OnStar. Other brands have some SOS partner or something like that. But in terms of actually getting help when you break down, for the most part, you don't want to use those unless you are in a dire emergency, like you're hurt. Because most of the time when you push those, you actually get sent directly to 911 or something like that. However, in my car, it has two separate buttons. One for it's an emergency, we need to call 911, and then a dedicated button for you just need general roadside assistance, like I got a flat tire. Yeah, most other integrated systems, it's most of the time just a 911 hot button.
On my dad's car, it's a 911 button.
Yeah. So
and I think
because
on my
of
car
that,
it is too if it has it, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Mercedes has to have something like that, I would think, especially them being a luxury brand here in the US.
They would have to have I'm sure they have it now, but I don't know about back in 2013.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the problem is the integrated systems in the cars, there are pretty much emergency systems where you need to call an ambulance. But if you got a flat tire out in the middle of nowhere, those buttons aren't going to help you because they're going to dial 911. And I don't think 911 appreciates calls where I got a flat tire. I don't need emergency services, but I got a flat tire. I need help getting this tire changed. Or, well, some vehicles don't even include a tire like mine. So, yeah, you got to call for help, but the emergency line's not going to do you much good. So, to me, this makes a big deal. That is something I appreciate.
Yeah, it makes a big deal to me, too, since what if you're not in cellular range also? As Geico offers roadside assistance, but has offered roadside assistance for several years, but what if you don't use Geico, and what if you don't? And what if you don't? And what if you're not in cellular range?
Well, the another one that I know that is extremely popular around here, AAA.
Oh yeah, AAA is extreme. AAA is popular. My grandmother has it, but AAA's service, from what I hear, has just not been very good lately.
Funny, because when my coworker got stranded at work, he used AAA to get the tow truck, and well, he didn't even ask for the address. He just told me he's going to follow me wherever I go, and I got directions from my coworker as of where we're going. So, yeah, my opinion, their service was great. No, I personally don't have AAA, but when I've seen it in action, at least, they've been great.
Alrighty, well, speaking of the iPhone 15, what do you think about the standard iPhone 15 before I go on?
There's only one thing about it that I just really don't like, and it's obvious. It's real obvious.
The colors.
Actually, not that. It was introduced on the 14 Pro.
Oh, that thing that you won't stop whining about.
The thing is, it's only great if it's in use, but most of the time it's not in use.
Still looks better than the notch.
No, it doesn't.
That's a matter of
opinion. A hole does not look better than a notch.
The majority of the... And to be fair, Apple is sort of a democracy in this case, since the majority of the opinion was that people hate the notch. So They went to the Dynamic Island because they prefer to look at that. And
I don't really think they're much of a democracy. I think they're more of a dictatorship. They give us what Apple give us. That's saying Apple giveth and Apple taketh away.
That's true. Mute switch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's another thing on the 15s I did not. I know it's a win for some people, and I appreciate it for that aspect. But in terms of how I use the iPhone, it is a loss for me. Because what I appreciate about the Switch is I don't have to guess, is silent on or is silent off, until I look at my phone and realize, oh, I missed all of these notifications. With the physical Switch, I can either A, just look at it, and I can see right now, my phone is not on silent, or I can just feel where it is in my pocket, and I'll know whether it's on silent or not.
That is a true advantage, but I personally like... But again, that is a pretty niche advantage, which is probably why Apple...
I know, and that's why it's specific to me and why it's a loss to me, because this is a niche advantage that I appreciate so much. I can't tell you how grateful I was to actually have the Switch when I switched from Android to iPhone.
I personally really like the action button because I don't find myself silencing. I never silence my phone because I don't want to risk missing my alarm.
Yeah, fair enough. So what would you use the action button for?
I would use it to open the camera app, since that's what I do the most.
Funny, because to me it's just tap, swipe.
Yeah, but now
Simple
with just
enough.
one single button, you could just wake up the phone. You could probably just wake up the phone and then bam.
Yeah, except my Samsung had a double tap the power button function for launching the camera. I may or may not have had a few pocket shots because of that. And that was double tap.
Oh, that is a good thing. That's a thing to realize, since iPhones have volume buttons, since you can shoot pictures with the volume buttons.
Oh, yeah. Like, one thing I actually wish that they would allow me to do with the volume buttons on the iPhone, I want that to control my zoom.
On Samsung phones, it does.
Yeah, and that's actually one thing that I do miss about Samsungs. I hate the way they record video and how they save it, because it breaks. If you go longer than a specific amount of time, it stops recording one file and starts a new one, so you miss a second or three of video footage. Yeah, and the general quality is just not that great. I hate the way Samsungs record video.
Record decent video, but I do not. But that would irritate me like crazy.
It has ruined videos before, actually. I've had to scrap entire videos because of that. So, yeah, that drives me nuts. But one thing that I've always appreciated about Samsung's, the way they handle their cameras, I can change the volume buttons to do something more useful than take a picture or start filming.
That is a nice advantage.
Yeah. So, I wish Apple would let me use the volume buttons to do that. That would be really appreciated.
Maybe they should allow you to customize that.
Yeah, I just want the option to do that. If you're one of those weirdos who is like, oh, okay, nope, buttons, they are to remain picture or video only. They are not to do anything else. When the truth is, well, they're great at volume plus or minus. Why not zoom plus or minus? In fact, why not other things plus or minus?
Yeah, like this is one thing that drives me nuts that Apple doesn't integrate into their devices, but the iPod Nano 7th generation has the best volume rockers in the whole volume rockers that Apple has ever done. Because you can use them to control music. Use the button in the middle to control music.
Oh yeah, I love the Nano's buttons that it has.
That's why I love the iPod Nano 7th generation so much.
Yeah, the volume up and down, and then right in the middle, that play pause button. That's amazing. It gave me so much control to the point where oftentimes I just never turned the device on. I just felt for it in my pocket and pushed it like that.
Should charge us up sometime, but yeah, that's why I love this iPod so much, is because it has the why can't Apple integrate this into other Apple products?
I actually miss one thing that I loved about Apple's EarPods was the remote attached on the wire. I miss that remote so much because it is literally the exact same functionality as the buttons on the iPod Nano 7.
Yeah, I found those really nice too because I didn't have to control them manually. And in fact, I wonder if Apple with AirPods Pro 3, or I guess if they call them that, I wonder if Apple could add volume buttons to the case to control AirPods case to control your media.
I highly doubt they do that, but I mean, actually, now ever since they added the swipe for volume controls, I think they could do a little improvement in terms of the accuracy of it, because oftentimes it doesn't detect my finger. But I mean, it's got basically every control that I use: play, pause, skip, rewind, volume now too.
It's just not good enough to be reliable.
Yeah, so I think once they get the accuracy, especially with the volume controls, that's my biggest gripe about it. Then I've got no complaints with it.
Again, they will have to wait for AirPods Pro 3 for Apple to fix that. Or else maybe they fixed that secretly with AirPods Pro. The new AirPods Pro 2.
Oh my goodness. What terrible branding. But, so yeah. It's a loss on the action button for me, because I appreciated that Switch so much. But I'm glad for you guys if you can take advantage of it in your own unique ways. Imagine they just use it to control Siri. It's like having a Bixby button all over again.
Except Siri is a lot smarter than Bixby.
Yeah. Oh yeah, then the other issue that I have with another button right next to the volume buttons, because this was an issue I had. I've never owned a Samsung device with a dedicated Bixby button, but when I've used other people's Samsung devices that had one, and everyone else also has this complaint, instead of hitting the volume down button when they want to lower the volume of their music, they kept hitting the Bixby button. In fact, actually, here's an issue I had with my Samsung A50. The volume buttons and the power button were on the same side. And quite often I mistook the power button for the volume down button. Or the volume down button for the power button. It was annoying. That was bad design. When you have two buttons on one side, you can at least feel where the buttons are, and that way you can identify, okay, here's this button, here's that button. I know where it is. But when you put more and more buttons on the side, it gets cluttered, and now you don't know where the buttons are.
That's why Steve Jobs wanted to remove buttons entirely, or remove buttons when he introduced the first iPhone.
Yeah. In fact, actually, I really would have liked it if they changed it to a slider.
You know what I think Apple should have done to fix the button problem what Apple should have done to fix the action buttons problem?
What?
They should have, on the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max, and I suppose the standard 16 and 16 Plus will get this next year too. If they make a 16 Plus, because it doesn't look like it's selling too well to bother making one, but the 15 Plus will sell too well to make one, but they should move the power button to the top just like Apple used to do with iPhones. Put the
Oh
action
no, no, that would not be a good idea.
Put the action button where the power button is now. Then leave the volume buttons on the other side. That way, all the buttons are on different sides, so you don't accidentally push a button.
Yeah, but the problem is when you're trying to one-hand your phone, like after the 5s, this was where it really started to gripe me. Like even the 5C had this issue for me. The problem is with the power button being at the top, yet we mostly hold our phones towards the bottom. You now have to readjust all the way to the top. And actually, I'm trying to gesture it right now. This is how I typically hold my phone. Now I have to slide up to the top and then awkwardly move my finger back to the corner right here. That's an awkward movement for me. Like there's a lot of strain in my hand right now just trying to do that. That's not ergonomic. And I am glad that they got rid of that ever since the 6.
That never bothered me to begin with, though. Again, I use old iPhones all the time, so I'm a lot more used to that than you. But
try reaching for this so-called power button on your 14 Pro's in use. 11 Pro Max. Pull out one of those and try reaching for that top right power button. Try to get a feel for what that feels like.
All right, I'll get my 11. Alright, I officially have my old 11 Pro Max here to demonstrate. Alright, so I'm holding the phone right now, typically in the bottom
one-handed
position. This is how I typically do it. I would just move up to the top, then push the button like this.
How about one-handed?
I would never do it one-handed. And
that's the problem.
Even one-handed, I could just let it slide down and just do it like this. So it'd be a little bit difficult, but I personally don't mind. But phones of this size don't like to use one-handed anyway, so it does not bother me.
I know way too many people who would actually think that'd be an issue. In fact, most people who I've talked to when it came to the whole side power button versus the top, especially when the iPhone 6s came out, I asked, does the power button location make that big of a difference?
I thought you weren't
and I discovered, yes, it does.
I thought you weren't interested in tech back in 2014.
I had a little interest.
That's a new side of Alpha that I didn't know.
I had a little bit of interest. I was still more of a car guy back then, but I like gadgets in general. I like technology in general. Cars are a form of it, and they're my most favorite form of it. But I was also getting into smartphones because they have been, they've been increasing in popularity, and it seems like they're the gadget that can do almost anything. So yeah, I had a mild interest, not as strong as it was today, but yeah, something that I paid attention to, especially when the iPhone 6s came out. What is it really that? Why would you put the power button to the side like that? Why make that change? And once I've held Samsungs and iPhone 6s that have the power button in that area, it all makes perfect sense. To the point where actually now I really hated where they used to put it. Because especially when you're trying to one-hand these devices, most people are right-handed, and that is not a comfortable stretch.
Oh well.
So yeah, there's my thoughts on that. But
do you have any
other details? So the regular 15 line. Other details about that. I'm actually very miffed that they didn't even okay, sure, leave the USB 10 gigabit per second thing on the Pros. Fine, but don't leave us at half. Don't leave us with USB 2. Why?
I don't mind that because It's the same speed as on the 14 Pro and the iPhone 14, and besides, it's what people are used to, and average people aren't going to be transferring files from their phone to their computer, so...
Yeah, it's just, that's not really... That's... Still, I would have preferred a later technology than USB 2.
A lot of devices still use USB 2 speeds now.
And can you think of any other Apple device that is still using USB 2 speeds other than the iPad 10 weird iPad thing? Why did they... Oh, that thing, I hate this so much.
I like the iPad 10.
Like, can you think of any other Apple device that costs about $800 and has USB 2 speeds?
No, but it doesn't matter because average people aren't going to notice that or else care enough, and it isn't going to be considered an upgrade to people anyway. But wait a second.
So why does the iPad Air have USB 10 gig and the iPad Mini as well? How come they get those speeds?
I realized
for cheaper.
That's a good point, but I actually realized that average Joes might care a little bit about the USB transfer speeds of their phone, because I realized there is something that average Joes do transfer photos from their phone to their computer when they're backing their phones up. Not as much now as people used to, but people still do that.
I know a lot of iPhone users, but I actually don't know that many Mac users. There's a lot of iPhone users with Windows devices, and they don't have the cool luxury like we do where we can airdrop our photos to our Macs. No, they have to plug their phones in. That is their only option.
Yes, the majority of iPhone users are still Windows users.
Yeah. So this would be something that would affect them as well. And I don't think they'd appreciate... I think they would definitely appreciate if their stuff got off their phone faster so they can go about their day. Compared to... Like, there was one time I've had... Yeah, it was during when AirDrop was not working for whatever reason. There was a bug going on the Mac. And I had an extremely long, not even 4K, just a regular 1080p 60 FPS video. That file size is not big, but I was still waiting way longer than what I would have wanted. And I'm trying to put the fact that I'm a pro user aside. If I was not a pro user, I'm like, why is this taking so long? Why would you want to wait this long? We've obviously improved on the technology between flash drives and external hard drives. Why does our iPhone have to do this so slowly?
Because Apple wants you to buy an iPhone 15 Pro.
Yeah, that's true, but I mean, just it's not appreciated. Like, maybe not 10 gigabit, fine, but at least regular 3.0.
That would be an improvement. That would be worthy.
That would be fine.
Most people's PCs are still capped at USB 3.0 speeds anyway, so...
True. And the only PCs that I know that have USB 2.0 ports, they only have 2 of them, and it's for the mouse and the keyboard. Because why would you use USB 2 for transferring a lot of data?
The Windows desktops at my school are Dell Optiplex 3000s, and they have 2 USB 2.0 ports and 2 USB 3.0 ports.
I'm willing to bet that those 2.0 ports are occupied with the mouse and the keyboard.
I think so.
Or did they mismatch them?
They might have mismatched them.
Yeah. Well, if it's IT, they probably would know to plug it into the slower ports. But then again, some people just don't think. So. But yeah, that's what the biggest thing about it that irks me. but I'm glad that it has Type-C either way. The colors, again, seriously, do you have to be embarrassed about your phones being colorful?
Do they have to be Easter egg colors?
It's terrible. Just by looking at how pale these colors are, they have to go saturated next year. They have to. Because these are so pale. How do you get paler than this?
They can't.
Yeah, they have to go saturated. But just... don't be embarrassed about having color options. Don't make the phones be embarrassed about color options. Kind of drives me nuts because you know how they're all about inclusion and all that? Celebrating everyone's little differences?
Yes, which
Why
we're
is
gonna
the
get more
iPhone
into
embarrassed to
later
be
on.
different? Why are they so embarrassed about the iPhone looking a little different than black and white?
Even the iPhone 5C
And this is a company who likes to celebrate differences
even
like
the iPhone
these.
5C, which I have to write a retrospective script on tonight, even that has that has pretty pale colors in my opinion, but even those are a lot more vibrant than the iPhone 15's colors, though.
The iPhone 12's even.
The 12s weren't really... Most of the 12 colors besides green were not pastel, though.
I thought the product red was a little paler than it should have been, but...
It was, but it still was bright.
But yeah, this is what they do? Why? It's just sad. I look at these colors and I think they could have been so much better. They could have been proud to be colorful. But they're not.
And they could have
They're
also made them
embarrassed.
a little more vibrant, and they could have made it match the 5C color lineup to celebrate the 10-year anniversary, too.
Could have, but nope. Can't do it. Like, I thought they're on a cycle of pale, saturated, pale, saturated. Well, it appears to be, well, they thought, I wonder if we can go even paler.
Yes.
Apparently they could. Pale enough to the point where they thought having white didn't make sense.
I think they should just have white and black. And why did they have to get rid of the product red? That benefited
Yeah,
the
that I'm not
charity.
happy about either. Product red was a great color, and it was also donating to a worthy cause. That's just...
Someday I need to make... Someday on my channel I need to make a dedicated video about product red.
Yeah, I wanted to own a product red device, because the first product red device I've ever seen was actually the iPhone 7. So beautiful.
My only product red device is my iPhone SE3.
Yeah, just... What a big miss.
Well, can I go into my opinions now about the iPhone 15?
Yeah, those are pretty much my big standout ones.
I absolutely hate the iPhone 15 and the 15 Plus because its big upgrades were the dynamic island, a 48 megapixel camera, and roadside
That actually is really
assistance.
cool in my opinion.
And roadside assistance, which is actually a good feature, but there's a problem. The dynamic island and the A16 chip, and what is the other feature I'm missing? Oh yeah. Come on, I just had it in my head.
I wouldn't think it'd be ProMotion, would it?
Oh, 48 megapixel camera.
Oh yeah, it has that too. Which
They were all
Actually,
on
no.
the iPhone 14 Pro last year.
well, a lot of what the 14's got were things that the iPhone 13 Pros had too.
But the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus are still even more lacking than the iPhone 14 Pro, since the USB-C port shows no benefit anyway.
Well, yeah, it does show some benefit. Power and performance-wise, no, there's no benefit, but having the proper shape has benefit. We now have one cable to rule them all.
Yes, we do, but most people don't. Most people use laptops with special charging connectors anyway, and most people use phone. And most people still use Lightning-based iPhones anyway, so it doesn't matter that much. But more importantly, the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus do not have ProRes video support recording. I don't think they have ProRAW image support. They don't.
To me, that should remain Pro exclusive.
They don't even have ProMotion, which Apple average consumers will notice ProMotion.
They don't.
Yes, they will notice it.
I've shown my coworker who has some enthusiasm about tech. I've shown him my 13 Pro Max and that thing in motion. He uses a 13 mini. Didn't even bat an eye.
It might not. It's still going to make the phones feel faster, and people are going to notice.
My sister has a phone with 90 hertz. She has a tablet with 60 hertz. Her laptop is 60 hertz. She doesn't notice. My mother, Samsung Galaxy S23, 120 hertz display. She also uses a Windows laptop with a 60 hertz display. Does not notice.
Okay, people don't.
My dad, same deal.
Okay, people don't know. People don't notice the difference between 120 hertz, but it still makes the phone feel faster, which people care about.
My aunt doesn't even notice, and she has a 14 Pro.
Okay, Alpha.
I know way too many people who don't even notice it's smoother.
People don't even notice that's smoother, but 120 hertz is still smoother, and it should be at this point on the standard iPhones. Like, there's no excuse for it for 160 hertz.
Well, I've
iPhone.
also seen so many interviews on YouTube, be it Mac Address, the Talos of Tech podcast. When it comes to people noticing, even the few people who do notice promotion, a lot of people do not use that to make a buying decision.
A lot of people don't, but it should still
Some
be standard.
do. We are the people who do. But we are obviously the minority in that.
I don't even consider promotion when buying a device, but I like having promotion on my devices, and
yeah, that's because we notice it and we're tech enthusiasts. We appreciate that. Average Joes, they don't.
I don't even compare it to a 60 hertz display, mind you. I just notice that, hey, this feels a little bit fluid. Like, that's just something that I noticed right off the bat. And I know average Joes average Joes will notice the difference too, but they just don't think about the fact that, okay, there's a ProMotion display in here.
I think the reason why it feels more fluid to you is because you do notice it. But like in terms of fluidity, like I use my XS Max alongside my 13 Pro Max. Fluidity actually feels the same to me. Despite that, they are totally running at completely different refresh rates.
Fluidity when I'm in... I can't forget about the ProMotion display on my iPhone 14 Pro, to be fair. And my MacBook and my iPad are both 60 hertz. And my Apple Watch is also 60 hertz.
In fact, to the point where even you said you wouldn't base a buying decision off of the fact that it has 120 hertz or not. That alone just proves that it's not necessary.
Okay, it might not be necessary, but it still is a feature that the Pro iPhones from last year have that the base iPhones iPhones this year are lacking for their price tag, mind you. It just seems like a better deal at this point just to buy an iPhone 14 Pro than an iPhone 15, 15 Plus.
Oh, it's always been the case.
What?
That has always been the case.
Yeah. You're not going to gain.
Yeah, if you wanted, like, say when the 12s came out, I probably would have bought an 11 Pro instead of a 12 or 12 Mini.
I would.
13s came out. If I wanted a phone that's cheaper, I would have gotten the 12 Pro or 12 Pro Max or something like that. Those Pro phones are always going to be a better deal than the base model phones.
That's more true now, but that wasn't true quite back in the day. First, the iPhone 12 Pro didn't really have any advantages over the 12 to the point where I would have just bought the 12 series, because the 12 series had the new squared off design, which I, especially back then, cared a lot about. I really liked it had, 5G doesn't matter, but it had MagSafe, which, sorta doesn't matter, but it still had all the new nice features, and the A14 processor. Like, it still had all the nice new features of the Pro iPhones, but the iPhone it still got most of the main flagship features of all phones, and plus it had better color options than the 11 Pro. 13 Mini over 12 and 12 Pro Max. Yeah, 13 Mini, they still have all the features that I need in a phone. They're not lacking to the point where I would buy a 13 Mini over a 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max. But when the iPhone 14s came out, then I started especially with the chip difference, to the point where you weren't even getting the latest internals. That really started to make you want. That was the point when I realized it was just a better deal to buy last year's Pro iPhones.
Well, with the Pro iPhones, you still got the camera upgrades. You still got better battery lives, especially if you go for the Pro Max model. Like, that used to be another reason to still buy last year's Pro Max model instead of, whatever the 6.1 inch alternative was. That was another reason to still go Pro if you were the type of person to buy big screen everything, like I am.
I would just say, to be fair, I'm not a big screen everything person, so. Except on my MacBook.
But yeah, I'd say even back then, there were still reasons to buy the previous Pro end iPhones instead of going for the cheaper ends.
But nowadays, there just isn't much sense to make an iPhone. But there just isn't much sense to buy an iPhone 15 and 15 Plus now. And in fact, even I will admit this, the only time I was ever truly wowed when I was looking at Apple's website right after the event 2 days ago was when I saw the iPhone 15 Pro. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of... I mean, there are some things that the 15 does have that the 14 doesn't. Yeah, that being the USB-C port, which is truly better. The roadside assistant things via satellite, which I don't know why that's exclusive to the 15s. I feel like they could just software update the 14s and boom, you're good to go.
I agree.
So, but... I still don't believe that... I still believe that the 15 Plus is not going to sell well. And it's all purely on price.
Oh, the iPhone 15 Plus is a terrible deal. It's still... Especially now that the 15 Pro's price standard 15 Pro's price didn't go up. Yeah, it's a terrible deal.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
I want to recommend it because I am the big screen person, but at that price tag, I can't. I just can't.
In fact, I'm going to look for iPhone 14 Pro Maxes on eBay just to see how much they go for now compared to the 15 Pro.
I kind of miss the days where it was literally just one iPhone and the Plus model.
Like I just miss it when it was one iPhone period. Oh, I already found one that's being listed for $860.
Yeah, buy that over the.
And it's a 512 gigabyte 14 Pro Max, mind you.
Oh yeah, definitely buy that over the 15 Plus.
And that's a new listing.
You're getting a way better deal. So, yeah, that's a tough sale. It was a tough sell last year because it cost so much, and it's going to be another tough sell this year.
I think the mini iPhone is just. I think the Plus iPhone is going to go away after the 15 Plus because the mini iPhone only made it for 2 generations, and even the mini iPhone sold better than the iPhone 14 and 15 Plus.
You know, the reason why I think that the mini and the Plus have been struggling so much was because both were $100 too expensive. I think the problem was back when the 10R came out, that was $750. 6.1 inches. The 11 came out. It was $700, $50 cheaper. 6.1 inches. But when the 12s came out, that 6.1 inch form factor increased $100. And the 12 mini took that $700 price tag.
I even think the 12...
the problem was people saw too much value in the screen being 6.1 inches to the point where they were willing to pay more. The $800 price tag, which left the mini in a bad spot. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people felt like there was a price increase because of it. But they were willing to pay at that time because, well, they didn't want to be stuck with a, how big was it, 5.4 inch screen?
Yeah.
Or 5 point... Yeah, that's how big it was. But the reason why the Plus isn't doing so well is because it's $100 even more expensive than that to go even bigger. And also, you got the Pro phones another $100 away. So just, how do you justify that?
Even I will say this about the iPhone 14, about the Plus. I think the only reason why the mini iPhone failed is because it was called the iPhone 12 and 13 mini. I think if they marketed the standard 13 mini, for example, in this case, is the standard 13, and marketed the 13 standard 13 as 13 Plus, it would have sold a lot better because people wouldn't have realized that was a mini phone, and it still has a decently sized screen too, to the point where people wouldn't have cared and people would have bought it because it was cheaper.
I'm still leaning more on the pricing idea because when the 6.1 inch got the $100 increase, I think a lot of people felt like, well, Apple now just cheated us because now if you want to pay $7, now you got to get this tiny thing. And yet marketing might have something to play with it, but just, yep. Those are two of the biggest I mean, also the Mini got a bad reputation because of the battery life. The 12 Mini at least.
The 13 Mini too, but not. But from what I hear, Jordan Riddles uses an iPhone 12 Mini, and he gets excellent battery life out of his.
Most people that I've known with the 12 Mini have actually commented on the battery life. They can technically make it, but they're kind of pushing it.
Yeah, everybody I know who has had a 13 Mini thought that too.
The 13 Mini, on the other end, I hear the complete opposite because, well, actually, there was only 2 times ever where my coworker, he's using a 13 Mini, and he's ever asked me to borrow my cable because he forgot to charge it overnight. That's all. But other than that, he doesn't really have many battery issues, and I think it was unfortunate that the 13 Mini does not do as well because it really rectified a lot of the issues that the 12 Mini had. But the battery one being the biggest, but still, it still ended up not selling well, and I think that's because the battery life of the 12 Mini left a sour taste in the mini phones. That, and combined with now the 6.1 inch got $100 increase, and now you're left with this. I think it was the failure of the 12 Mini that contributed to the failure of the 13 Mini, because I actually thought, okay, the 13 Mini is actually going to sell better this time. No price increases. From the looks of it, the issues appeared to be fixed. But I think the problem was the reputation of the 12 mini means any mini going forward, it's not going to be good. It's going to have bad battery life because small phone.
Yeah, because Apple's other mini products had very excellent reputations at first, which led them to be successful. The first Mac Mini was very successful, so it led to many future Mac Minis. The first iPad Mini
Now the Mac Mini is the best. Now the Mac Mini is the best desktop you can buy.
The iPad Mini had an excellent reputation when it came out, which led it to, still sell well pretty well today.
Yeah, I see those things around a lot.
I don't see iPad Minis around as much, but I don't see many iPads.
Especially the 6. People love the Mini 6.
I almost bought an iPad Mini 6.
Yeah, people love that iPad.
But I wanted to have a keyboard.
Despite that, it had the whole display Jellygate thing going on, but evidently that didn't stop people.
Yeah, I almost bought an iPad Mini 6, but the only reason I went for the Air was because I had the money and because I wanted to have keyboard support. That's it. Otherwise, and because I didn't want ladies' colors. Otherwise...
Yeah, the only reason why I bought the Air was just because I didn't want a tiny mini display, and that's because I have big iPhones. At that point, what's the point of an iPad Mini? So, but yeah. Still, I think the biggest reason why the 13 Mini especially failed, it was because of the 12 Mini's reputation. And it carried through, unfortunately. And I think, and the Plus models, the reason why it's not selling well, it doesn't really have much to do with reputation, because most people I talk to, they appreciate having bigger screens. That's why smartphone displays have continued to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But the reason why it's not selling well this time is because it's too close in price to the Pros.
And a lot of people...
And you're getting so much more with the Pros.
And the only people... And at this point, because even though $100 isn't that much of a price difference, especially when you get so much more for the Pros... With the Pros, most people buy more storage anyway, to the point where you're easily overlapping with a 14 Pro's price.
Yeah, if you wanted to buy a 14 Pro, or a 14 or a 15 Plus at anything higher than the base storage, you're already at the same price of the 15 Pro.
And not only mentioning the fact that most people, nowadays carriers are pushing 36-month financing, so as a result, people don't have to pay it off all at once, so of course it's more worth it to go with the Pros.
Yeah, it's making less and less sense to buy the Plus model, and that, to me, that's sad. If they priced it $200 cheaper than the Pro instead of $100, I'm willing to bet that thing would be flying off the shelf. But it's too close.
The iPhone 5C also didn't get that well. The iPhone 5C is also considered a failure by many people because it was priced too closely to the iPhone 5S to sell well. But the difference between the 5S and the 5C was that at that point you could still buy contracted phones for really cheap, to the point where the iPhone 5C was $99, started at $99, and the iPhone 5S started at $199. Now $99 is about half of $199, or actually less than half of $199. So they're getting over 50% off to have the latest iPhone. That's a steal for most people.
I don't even call it the latest, but I want to call it the latest considering that it had a lot of the previous iPhone's hardware.
Yeah, it still had a lot of iPhone 5 hardware, but granted, it was still an excellent deal. But it was still a really good deal. And then the iPhone 5... And then the following year, the iPhone 5C was the last iPhone to be free on contract, which that's actually Tabby Cat 406's. That was his first iPhone. How he got his first iPhone.
Yeah.
And that's also what my two working iPhone 5Cs is 8 gigabyte iPhone 5Cs that were bought during that time. Now,
oh jeez.
And in fact, my iPhone 5C running iOS 8, because it's an 8 gigabyte iPhone 5C, technically it's running its original iOS version. because it's of the original iOS version of that variant. In which case, I'm very lucky to have it on 8.0.2.
Yeah. But, I mean, just in terms of the pricing thing, despite that, yeah, when it comes to Apple, it's pretty much a take it or leave it scenario. But when they've got their own lineup of products that also compete with each other, like, keep in mind, they're not just competing, their individual iPhones are not just competing with the Android market. They're also competing against the other iPhones in the lineup.
I said this in one of my very early episodes of TIFP, back before you were on.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, we even see this problem with Samsung. Why do we see so few of their flagships? It's because now their mid-range lineup is also competing with their flagships, and it appears right now their mid-ranges offer much better value than their flagships. So, Samsungs are competing with Samsungs, and for the past, this is going on year number 4 now. So for the past 3 years, we're seeing Apple's latest iPhone lineup compete with itself, and one of them is sorely losing because it's too similar to the biggest thing right now, especially with the plus sizes. It's too similar in price.
That's been an issue for 10 years now since Apple introduced the iPhone 5C. And one thing we talked about on TIFP a lot, or especially back in season 1, was what Apple would be like if Steve Jobs were still around. And one thing I can definitely say about the iPhone lineup under Steve Jobs, there would probably just be one iPhone 15.
Considering his whole idea of we have to create the best product, not necessarily the most mass market one. And I mean, the thing is, like, when the 11 series came out, this was when we definitely figured out they originally started in 2018. We just didn't know it at the time. But in 2019, when the iPhone 11 series came out, we figured out Apple's not going for trying to get the latest and greatest iPhone in your pocket. It's making sure that the phone in your pocket was an iPhone. They were going after market share. They were aggressively trying to attack the smartphone market and trying to make sure that it doesn't matter what iPhone is in your pocket. It just has to be an iPhone.
And Apple succeeded.
But now, yeah, they definitely succeeded doing that. But now, today, I mean, some could argue they're still kind of trying to do that with, well, you got the cheaper end options, small screen and big screen for those who appreciate both, and more professional options with just like that. But with the way that they're treating their devices, especially with how much they're charging for them, because price makes a big impact, especially when you got devices competing with each other. Now it seems more like they're back on, we got to make sure that the iPhone in your pocket is the latest and greatest.
Because they're basically killing all
emphasis on greatest.
Apple is I wonder if within the next few years we're going to see Apple kill off the standard series iPhones and just make the Pro series of iPhones, just give that the standard name. Or maybe keep the Pro name, knowing Apple's marketing right now.
Yeah, I mean, do you know anybody who bought the iPhone 14 last year? Standard 14 or 14 Plus, not the Pros?
Yes, my grandmother did. And one of my classmates has a standard 14. And one of my teachers last year also bought the standard 14.
Okay, so compare this with, how many people do you know who bought the 14 Pros?
I bought a 14 Pro. One of my friends bought a 14 Pro Max. Another one of my classmates bought a 14 Pro. I saw another 14 Pro. One of my teachers has a 14 Pro.
In other words, way more, right?
Yes.
I've only met two people who have the standard 14. Everyone else I know, it's a 14 Pro or 14 Pro Max. That's saying something.
That really.
So yeah, these
Apple,
new cheaper end options. We probably should get off of this because we've been going on a while for this, but
we still have Apple.
I guess the best way to sum this up.
We still have topics to cover.
But the best way to sum this up, the best way to sum this up is don't buy the cheaper models anymore because they're not compelling enough. They're too expensive for what they originally were. They started at $700. We'd be talking something different here again. $700 for the standard 15, $800 for the 15 Plus. I'd have no qualms with that. And I'm pretty sure more people would also have no qualms with that. But clearly they're not really price competitive anymore with the standard lineup considering what it's offering. So I expect it. I expect the same results this year.
Yep. All right. What do you think about the standard Apple Watch Series 9?
I did not really care for a lot about what that thing other than, okay, finally got a chip upgrade, like an actual chip upgrade, not just Sharpie rebranding. I'm glad it has that, but I'm a little bit miffed about so many misses with that. You know, Apple keeps saying that their chips are getting more and more power efficient. Why do these things still have the same battery life?
That's an interesting question.
Like they've actually been doing this for years. The chips get more efficient. The battery sizes typically don't decrease. They typically just keep them the same. Every now and then they might increase it. But how is it battery life's not going up?
I don't know.
That just confuses me. They've been doing this in iPhones. They've been doing this in iPads. They've been doing this in... Well, I don't think you can say MacBooks because, well... I don't think you could typically say Apple... Yeah, I mean, the Apple Silicon transition literally just happened a few years ago compared to all these other products. They've been doing this way longer than that. But how can they keep telling us that these chips keep getting more power efficient, yet they still put the same size batteries in their devices, and yet we got no battery life increases? Something's not adding up.
Maybe they're not power efficient, or in fact, they're not power efficient.
Yeah, something is not adding up. I mean, maybe they could be running faster at the same power levels. Okay, but like for the most part, most of our basic tasks still consume the same amount of battery. So I'm confused.
Like my Apple Watch Series 7 has the same battery life as my Series 5, and I don't do anything different on my Series 7.
And that has a different chip compared to the Series 5.
Yeah, it does.
So yeah, something is not adding up. And I'm a bit upset that it took me quite this long to figure it out. Because the truth is, when you really look back at it, they've been doing this for years. And most of the time, you don't see battery life increases until you actually hear, oh, they actually upped the size of the batteries. That's why they got better battery lives. But yeah, all their new devices that they keep advertising, same battery life. Something is not adding up. So the chip upgrade in that regards to me is meh because yeah, this time they actually did make a change, but again, we get the same battery life as before with the same battery capacity. So at that point, what's the difference?
I don't know. But the Apple Watch Series 9 also got the remote is going in alongside the Apple Watch Ultra 2. In October, we'll be getting the move your fingers to control certain actions.
I would never use that.
I mean, that might be a little cool, but I would still want to look at my Apple Watch's display anyway, at which point, like, okay, maybe if both your hands are busy, maybe, but I would honestly
Well, here's the other thing,
use
too.
my Apple Watch's touchscreen.
Yeah, well, and here's the other thing, too. Every single time they demoed it, there was hesitation. And from what I'm seeing, it's a slow process. To the point where tapping your screen would be faster anyway.
Apple. This makes me a little nervous for the Apple Vision Pro, which is going to be using this technology.
Yeah.
Because the Nintendo Power Glove.
I mean, I get it. It might be useful for some occasions, but overall, you're still probably just. I would think most people would find it more convenient just to use the screen because it's faster, and it's noticeably faster.
That's like a touchscreen on a Mac, and which is again, if Steve Jobs were at Apple, we're still at Apple today. On the Apple Watch Series 9, which there will probably only be one series of Apple Watch under Steve Jobs, this feature would not exist.
Yeah. It's too slow. Some people would use it, but again, this is a niche feature. I don't like niche features. I like features that make great impact on society. This does not make a great impact on society. So that's why I'm not excited about this at all.
And the new pink finish on the Apple Watch Series 9 is cool, but...
No, thank you.
I'm not a lady. I'm not a girl, so I don't care. And I know some guys like pink, but not that many do. And they also did not bring back the blue option.
Yep, I'm upset about that too.
Why, Apple? Why? You brought it back on the iPhone 15 Pro, but you couldn't bring it back on the Apple Watch Series 9. Why, Apple? Why?
I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, the watch also did get a 2000 nits display.
I don't have any problems with the brightness on my Apple Watch Series 7, and I never had any problems on my Series 5, and heck,
neither have I.
Heck, I never even had problems with the brightness on my Apple Watch Series 0, and even more heck, I can use my Casio watch. I have no problems with the brightness on that display either, since I can just turn on the backlight whenever I'm in a dark environment.
Yeah. So, like, the only benefit I can see to having the brighter display, the flashlight.
And at that point, I just find it easier to use my phone's flashlight, though. The flashlight, okay, that might be a real benefit.
Yeah, other than that, not too sure how useful that is.
Well, I guess we should get on the next topic, speaking of impacts on society, which is Apple's controversial announcement to be carbon neutral by 2030.
I'm pretty sure people are a bit confused why this is controversial, but how is it not?
First of all, the Apple Watch claiming to be carbon neutral is probably a lie, because what all these companies seem to fail to realize is that the United States does not have pollution problems. We have clean air in most places. In
most places. The big cities, it's a bit of an issue, but
for the most part, in most places, America has clean air, except when Canada decides that it's okay to bring their wildfires down here.
Oh, you got affected by it too?
Yes, and I'm that far south.
Yeah, for context, we massive distance between me and him, our locations. Just so you know.
And Alpha's
Oh, yeah,
obviously.
I'm in Upper Michigan. I am so close. I'm in Upper Michigan. So I am directly affected by the fires.
And I don't.
In fact, because of the fires, I don't think summer ever came.
And I don't live in Canada, and I don't live anywhere and I would have to go through one, two, 3 entire states to get to Canada.
Four, if you were to travel by sea.
Yeah, 4, but by road it would only take. By road I'd only have to go 3 states.
3? Oh! Yeah. Yep, 3. My bad. I miscounted.
Yep, but that's not the. But also getting back on point, China and India are the 2 world's biggest polluters.
Isn't that where these are being made?
Yes.
Oh, geez.
Not carbon neutral, Apple.
Another qualm I have about this whole shipping efficiency.
Like, they're using fewer planes. Ships are not. If they are going to probably be using ships for shipping, and ships are not good at shipping.
For 2 reasons. One, actually, they require a lot more fuel than you expect. Why? Because in order to move a boat, and this gets worse the bigger the boat is, you have to generate a lot of horsepower. A crazy amount of horsepower. And to do that, well, you need a lot of fuel.
Even most police boats can only go around 37 miles an hour.
So not only now we're just transferring the pollution. We're also just transferring the pollution from the air to the sea,
where most of Earth is.
Yep. And now shipping times are longer.
Because, mind you, not only with shipping times being longer if Apple is using fewer planes, first of all, let's say you're going from China, in this case, to shipping a product to the United States, in our example. With an airplane, you can go anywhere, and in fact, you can go through Europe even and get there faster if they're just less than a day. But with a ship, that takes quite weeks to get there. That not only takes weeks to get from China to the U.S., but from then you only have 2 places that you can unload iPhones, being the port at Los Angeles and the port at Seattle. And mind you, to get onto my side of the country, which is the complete opposite side of that.
Yeah, we're on the eastern half of the United States, not the west.
Then you have to get trucks to haul all that. So that's.
I mean, at least they could argue we could use Tesla semis.
But they're still using energy on the ground where the majority of the wildlife is, versus no wildlife lives in the air. And even so, most wildlife doesn't spend all their time in the air.
Yeah, I mean, the one area where you actually could increase energy efficiency in terms of shipping, yeah, it's definitely through electric semi-trucks. That's a known fact. But even then, they can only go so far. You need a great road infrastructure to handle that type of stuff, and I personally hate how much we ship stuff via semi.
Semi-trucks are becoming... My downtown area is getting so clogged up with semi-trucks.
You should see how many go down my road. Like actual semi-trucks going down my road in the middle of nowhere.
Do you live on a main highway?
No, I don't.
Oh, jeez! Semi...
Now, a lot of them are logging trucks because it's rural, middle of nowhere. But also a significant portion of them are, a lot of them are cargo trucks.
Most of the big semi trucks are CR cargo trucks.
So, yeah, to me, I think we're depending way too much in terms of, we're depending on the trucking industry way more than we should.
Because when it's all up in the air, because average Joes can't go up in the air yet, because flying cars are stupidly overregulated right now.
That and they require so much energy to actually do that anyways. Because now you need energy to keep the car above ground.
But as a result, we're just depending way too much on semi-trucks to the point where it's becoming, especially in my downtown region, there's just certain times of the day when you can't even get through it.
Yeah.
Without a lot of accident risks. And you might ask why I don't have a bypass for the trucks, and it's because maybe we should rely less on trucks anyway to not have a bypass, and also because my stupid state refuses to build a bypass.
You know what you really want to know what the most effective and efficient way to transport stuff is?
Airplanes.
No. Rail. Trains.
Rail is efficient too.
The reason why is because they can haul massive loads. You can attach so many cars to one train, and you can haul all sorts of stuff from station to station along rail.
And if they come out with electric trains, then that'll only make it even better.
Oh, electric trains do exist. They're currently used in cities as subway trains right now because I don't think you'd want emissions going through underground tunnels. But yeah, electric trains do exist. I think if you could electrify the rail system, this is how you really increase your efficiency in mass transport.
There's a reason why there's still... The problem is that the rail industry, ever since cars became manufactured, it's still relying on the old-fashioned infrastructure back when rail was the main way to navigate.
That, and also we have a lot of labor unions to thank for this.
So
a big reason why the rail industry has died off is because of labor unions.
Yeah, and because as a result there aren't enough railroad tracks to transport materials easily.
And like there used to be a railroad actually like less than a quarter mile from my house.
Did they take it out?
Yeah, it's out now. It's now the snowmobile trail, but there used to be a rail line that went right by my house.
My rail system is still intact to the point where even if you go outside, you can hear a train.
Yeah, it drives me nuts how there are other times where I'll see some train tracks. I can never remember each stretch of highway, but it's at that one intersection at the end of M26. There's a rail line that follows along it, and it never gets used. Like the last time I actually saw it in use was they were storing train cars there because nobody travels along that line anymore. Now the cars are gone, so that means they've eventually came back and they've moved those cars since, but that line is not active.
And there used to be rail is very efficient. In fact, have you ever read the book Tales of the Fourth Grade Nothing?
Nope.
So in that book, it revolves around. It's a book about this 9-year-old kid named Peter who's mad because his older little brother that throws all sorts of tantrums seems to get all the special treatment from his parents and everybody around him. But in that book, he has to do a school project regarding more efficient ways to travel to reduce carbon emissions. Now, mind you, this was a book from 1972, but even he stated back then, which, granted, this is a fictional story, mind you, but he still stated monorails are the most efficient. Monorails are the best way to travel.
Yeah, the rail system is truly the most efficient way to do it. The trains, especially with how little innovation there is in the rail industry because it's so rarely ever used, the trains might not technically be as efficient on their own, but the reason why they're the most efficient method of transporting goods and, well, in general, is because you can haul so many at a time with just one single train.
And it's also not used by average people anymore, meaning that you don't have to worry about big trains not being able to stop.
So, yeah, to me, it's sad that the rail industry has been dying off, and we've been using these less efficient, road-destroying semis. And you'd be surprised at how dangerous semis actually are to the public.
Oh, I'm not
anyone else driving.
I live in Samsung. Actually had to roll out the Samsung actually announced has announced semi trucks with displays on the back because most traffic accidents are caused by trucks. So as a result, they were putting displays on the back of trucks so that way you can see what's around the truck.
Yeah, I've actually had a real bad experience with the truck Monday. So, what happened was I went to get lunch. So, after I get my lunch, I pull out onto the road, and it's in the direction I'm traveling, there's 2 lanes. I'm going the speed limit, which is 35 miles an hour. Up behind me comes this yellow semi, flatbed semi. So there was nothing loaded on it. And what he decides to do, we're coming up to a 4-way intersection, and right before we get to the 4-way, the 2 lanes merge into one. Right as we got to that point where the 2 lanes merge, he tries to speed up and drive around me as the 2 lanes are coming together.
How dangerous!
He almost hit me.
A semi... You could have died.
Yes, I could have, because he was trying to go faster than the speed limit. There was oncoming traffic, too, and he would have pushed me into it.
You could...
And... yeah, thank goodness I am quick with my feet.
Thank goodness.
But yeah, the entire time after that, when we actually got to the 4-way stop, he was probably less than a centimeter from my bumper.
Oh, gee.
This guy scared me.
We could... Otherwise... Yeah, if that truck hadn't been... If you weren't careful, if you weren't quick enough with your feet and that trucker wasn't careful enough, Tabby and I would be left wondering where you were.
Yeah. Yet for the first time ever, a single driver had actually made me scared for my life. And this because this semi-truck driver could not drive this thing. For one, it's a big vehicle. We all know the big problems with big vehicles. So despite that, everyone claims you can see better out of them. No, you can't. This guy was less than a centimeter from my bumper. This guy scared the living crap out of me. I really wish I had my dash cam rolling. So... Yeah, if anyone of you guys need a reason to get a dash cam, is this a good enough reason for you?
The only reason why I don't have a dash cam yet is because I'd rather just use a GoPro for it.
I'd even just get something cheap just in case.
That is true.
Because, yeah, especially after that, I really want my dash cam rolling right now. The problem is it's so bad. It's now boot looping. So, it's not useful anymore. And the only other camera I got left is using my iPhone, but I don't want to take the time to set that up every single time.
That's why dedicated dash cams exist.
But, yeah, semi-truck drivers, I mean, I get it. There are times where it is actually necessary. Like, when it comes to mass transportation, getting things across the country, yeah, rail's going to be great, but obviously rail has its limitations. Obvious one being, well, you're limited to where the tracks are. Compared to semis, they can go off the pavement even. So, yeah, there are some instances where semis are still going to be required. But the amount that we are depending on them today, to me, is scary, especially when we've seen so many semi-accidents. Not that involve smaller cars, too. It's scary. It's real scary.
Whenever I drive, whenever I drive through downtown, unless I try to either go at not a busy time or else I try to avoid downtown as much as possible, just so that way I don't have to have any trucks potentially risking my life.
Yeah. Yeah, these things are scary.
Probably...
Anywho, what were we talking about?
We were talking about Apple's announcement to be carbon neutral by 2030, but we've basically got that taken care of. So now let's move on to the next topic, which is speaking on a related topic with governments. Let's talk about the tech company's favorite government.
The EU?
Yep, you know what they're doing?
Something that probably goes along the lines of EU.
Yes.
What a bad joke.
So basically what the EU is making is that the EU is trying to make platforms interoperable with each other.
What do they mean by that?
They just have to work with each other. Like, for example, you can text somebody in one app and it will work in the other app. So basically, for social networks, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn all have to be intercompatible.
So in other words, the EU is completely against the idea of competition.
Yes. That's basically...
That is literally how... That is the only way you can put it.
That's totalitarianism.
Yeah.
That's all I would call...
They don't want competition.
I would call it communism, but they don't technically own the businesses, so can't call it communism.
But they're just regulating them to such a stupid point.
For messaging, WhatsApp and Messenger have to be intercompatible, which, okay, that makes more sense because at least they're both owned by Meta.
Yeah, but I mean, trying to make a standard of something is important, but we need to have multiple standards. And I know it seems kind of backwards. Why would you want multiple standards? Well, certain standards have certain benefits. For example, I love to relate to the charging industry because, boy, it's easy to. NACS versus CCS.
Or even better, macOS versus Windows.
Exactly! That's a great one right there. It's even better. Here's the reason why we need multiple operating systems in the desktop space. Because right now, if we were to stick to one, most likely everyone would choose Windows, and that's a steaming pile of garbage.
Even China, which isn't really about competition, even they're banning Windows for their own operating system.
What are they going to use?
They're going to make their own operating system, supposedly, but though I don't know too much about that, so don't quote me on that. But even in North Korea, Windows is prohibited, and macOS are both prohibited because you have to use Red Star, which is their... It was initially a Windows knockoff, but now it's a macOS knockoff.
Well, at this point, in terms of design, Windows is a macOS knockoff as well.
Yeah, it's a knockoff. It's a knockoff of macOS, the Mountain Lion era, and Red Star OS 2.0 is a 3.0 is the latest. 2.0 is a copy of Windows 7, and 1.0 is a ripoff of Windows XP.
Yeah, this just is not good. I am. At first, I was a bit confused as of why some nations were leaving the EU. Now it makes sense, and you know what? More power to you.
Because the EU, let's face it, the EU is just another Roman Empire.
Sounds a lot like something else I know, but I'm not going to get into because then we're going to get canceled for it.
Soviet Union.
I was going to say something else, but okay, that works too.
Or what? Oh no. Oh, what the Soviet Union is now.
Yeah, so anywho, before we get ourselves canceled.
So for intermediation, as I took a screenshot of this, for Google Maps, Google Play, Google Shopping, Amazon Marketplace, the Apple App Store, and Meta Marketplace all have to be intercompatible with each other.
At that point, what's the point of having multiple app stores?
Also, they're trying to allow sideloading, but also...
Then what's the point of having app stores?
Google Shopping is not an app store, and neither is Google Maps!
No, it's not.
I want to believe that this is fake, but given the EU's passion for laws lately, this doesn't seem fake. Their passion for regulating foreign tech companies, mind you.
At this point, I just want more nations to pull out of it. I'm glad Britain did it. I'm glad Norway did it. I'll be glad when many others do the same, because this has gotten out of hand.
YouTube and Google Search, they can be on their own. Chrome and Safari must be intercompatible, which I thought they already are, but okay. Google, Amazon, Meta ads all have to be intercompatible with each other, which is a little more fair.
How does one get intercompatibility with online shopping, like for buying goods?
They don't have to do that right now.
That's what I'm confused about. Online shopping for goods like Amazon, how do you get intercompatibility?
That's why they're not doing that yet.
Yeah, what are you going to standardize there? Pricing?
That's mercantile. No, that's not even that's old-fashioned economicism. That's before mercantilism even.
Yeah, I'm getting real nervous vibes from this union.
Oh, and
I guess now I really understand why I hate labor unions. I guess I hate unions in general.
Oh, you don't want to hear this? The last thing that has to be intercompatible with each other, though.
Uh-oh.
This is a biggie.
All right, what is it? Let's get it over it. Let's rip off this Band-Aid.
I'm trying Jeopardy music. Dum, 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 dum. Yes. Dum, 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 dum.
I have to guess.
Dum, 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 dum.
Don't tell me operating systems.
Ding, ding, ding! You are correct. Android, iOS, and Windows have to be intercompatible with each other.
Any of you watching the video version of the podcast, in case you're wondering why my video has cut out all of a sudden, it's because I am holding something up to the EU right now.
Yeah, he's holding a middle finger.
They earned it.
How do you make the...
They earned it.
You have to get one... Mind you, you have to have the same basis for all the operating systems, which is different because Windows is based off of MS-DOS, Android is based off of Android, and iOS is based off of Unix. They're going to have to get one standard for all those operating systems, get all these tech companies to agree to... Foreign tech companies, mind you, to agree to one standard.
I'd exit the market altogether.
For the EU, that would normally never work together.
I think these companies need to threaten leaving the market.
They need to, because this is the other thing to consider, mind you, getting more into politics again, is that TikTok, a Chinese company, or ByteDance is technically the company that owns them, but a Chinese company working with American companies to come together for a foreign market to both of them. Do you know anything about relations between the U.S. and China right now, at least publicly?
I think everybody knows the relationship between the U.S. and China.
Yeah, it's not good. So...
No, it is not. Yeah, at this point, I might actually break out an email to all these major tech companies and ask them, get in a meeting room with each other and all agree at once to pull out of selling their products to the EU. Because at this point, what does the EU have if all of these companies leave?
Or you know what they could do? They could just illegally sell their products in the EU. Wait a minute.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, that could cause an actual war because America, I think we're supposedly friends with the EU, so that America might get mad and might cause a third world war, but they probably shouldn't do that.
At this point, seriously, I'm actually debating emailing all of these companies. Like, I'm pretty sure they don't like any of this either. Some things they can deal with, but like to the point where now we have to agree on one operating system to rule them all. I mean, if we had to, I would want macOS personally, but
like iOS, Android, and Windows are also different operating systems, mind you. Different type. iOS and Android versus Windows, they're completely different types of operating systems. They don't need to be intercompatible.
And they all offer their own advantages and disadvantages.
Also, why doesn't macOS have to comply? Or I guess macOS doesn't share enough market share, but...
Yeah, at this point, I'd pull out.
And you know...
I'd leave them screwed. Because if they're all relying on American tech companies and they don't really have anything for themselves, what are they going to do if everyone pulls out?
Sure, the EU can rely on, and other tech companies from other countries aren't going to agree to this too, because Japanese tech companies, even though they all mostly fallen at this point, they're not going to agree to. They mostly just make hardware. They don't make software. They're not going to agree, and they're probably not going to agree with the EU. China certainly is not going to agree with the EU. or China might, but
Yeah.
China might, but I don't think people will. And
Well, even the EU is a little. Some people there are a little leery about the Chinese tech as well, despite that. Um, Especially in the automotive industry there right now, and is in the electric car industry there. There's a scary amount of Chinese cars there.
yeah, but that's not good. Good, but I think we've
Yeah.
got that.
Dear Apple, dear Google, dear whoever,
Dear Microsoft,
pull out. Yeah, it's not worth it anymore. At this point, you're now just being set up to be screwed.
At this point, it's like the Europe trying to recolonize America.
Not happening here again.
Yeah, we already had.
We worked hard for our freedom. We're going to keep it.
We already had one American Revolution. Do we need another just to keep Europe out?
Yeah. So far, they've done things that being Apple should have done it a long time ago. I still disagree with the reason why they implemented it. Like, you could even tell on stage when they were talking about USB-C. Did they act excited?
Didn't watch the event, so I didn't know.
Oh, well, I did, and they did not act excited at all.
Even Greg Jozovac stated that we have no choice. We have to comply.
Yeah, but like during the keynote where now this thing is added, at least you can just tell they did not want to do this. They wanted to stick with Lightning so badly. And this year they could have.
They could have also just made Lightning. They could have also tried to make their own port if they want better port like they did with Lightning initially.
Yeah, they could have done that. But instead, what we got was a bunch of what feels like, yeah, fine. Here it is. They weren't excited for it. And yet, how much development do they contribute towards USB-C? How many of their products do they currently sell today that use USB-C?
A lot.
And their reaction is like, oh yeah, the iPhones now have USB-C. And you can now, with this port, the cool thing with it is you can now charge your AirPods or Apple Watch from your iPhone with USB-C. Anything else? Well, with the Pros, you can now record to SSDs. But other than that, they were not excited about it. They did not want to do this.
Even getting a little more on topic, even if tech companies pulled out of the EU, people there that want new technology would probably just import it.
And that one means they get devices that still have the benefits that us here in America have.
And they could
the imported devices, they only have to be compliant with American regulations.
Not to mention the fact that that would be a lot cheaper for them to import devices from Norway and the UK.
Yeah.
They can't technically stop people from selling them on eBay, or they might try, but they can't stop.
Yeah.
Well, okay, eBay isn't quite as common in Europe, but people might start trying to import new tech from other countries just because of it, like what they're already having. If tech companies can pull out of Russia just because of that thing they did, then surely tech companies can pull out of the EU because of the many things they've done.
Yeah. Standardization of operating systems.
What's next? What's next? There can only be one phone company.
Yeah. If this is your idea on how our technology should be, again, black screen here. Take it, Europe. Take it, EU. Not in my house.
All right, speaking of the opposite of the EU, you know what the British government did?
Not really. I don't look towards much news from England as of late.
So you know how the British government was trying to break encryption to the point where iMessage wouldn't be allowed in the UK anymore?
They were doing that?
Yep.
Why?
To spy on people.
Don't tell me they've succeeded.
They admit defeat.
Well, it's good to know that Apple has some security.
That's excellent.
To the point where a whole government... Yeah, I mean... I know you commented about the whole privacy and security thing. They're not as secure as you think they are. Well, considering that a whole government agency just admitted defeat to that, I think that there's some merit to it.
There is. And iOS is still a very locked down operating system, so there's definitely merit to it.
The FBI still is trying to get Apple to give them a backdoor to the whole thing, which means evidently they don't have access to the entire thing. So, yeah. One of the many reasons why I like iOS devices. Are they perfect at security? Oh, absolutely not.
Apple sells user data,
but at least they make an effort. Yeah, they absolutely make an effort. Compared to every other company. Google? Nah, they'll just sell it. Meta? Oh, they'll sell it on the dark web.
Meta mostly uses their internal data for themselves. Their data from themselves.
I don't know why they'd need it.
For advertising, you know. Like what Mark Zuckerberg wants. Apple. I mean, even Apple mostly just uses their data for. I mean, even Apple just sells their data, but they don't sell quite as much of it.
Well, they also don't collect as much of it as well. Considering that they're also now really shifting a lot of some what used to be processes that had to go to Apple servers to function, they're still trying to shift it to on-device.
Like Siri.
Yep, that'll work on device. They don't need your recordings anymore. Now you can still give it to them to help them improve it. They give you that option at least, but they're upfront about it. And again, are they perfect? No. Every now and then the company randomly gets hacked and their data gets stolen. I don't know how those people can make use of it because from the sounds of their levels of encryption, I don't know. It seems a little difficult to make use of.
Even as the YouTube Mental Outlaw stated, there's really no use to having access to just one piece of people's private data. For example, people's phone numbers, because you can even come up with phone numbers on your own that belong to somebody, but there's nothing you can do. Advertisers can do with them since they're like, okay, this is a number, but we can think of any combination of numbers like this. But once you add a name to the phone number, then you know a whole lot more since you know, okay, this person lives in this location.
This is their email address. Who knows? There might be a credit card or something attached to it.
Like once you get names attached, and the same goes for social security. Well, not social security numbers are a bad example, but credit cards.
Credit cards, yeah, credit cards, debit cards, passwords. Yeah, have you seen Trilogy Media's tour of the dark web by any chance?
No, I don't care much for the dark web.
It is scary. Like, it is actually really scary. If you ever see a computer with a web browser that has this onion on it, steer clear of whoever owns that computer. because anyone with the Onion web browser has access to the dark web. And it is a scary place. They censored a lot of it for, well, one, YouTube would definitely take the video down if they showed it, but also for the sake of, it would just be creepy too. And there's a lot of scary stuff there. Including passwords from 12 years ago.
At least they're 12 years old, but a lot of people don't change their passwords, so...
Yeah, but you can get a lot of... The amount of personally incriminating stuff that you can get from there it is scary. So, but yeah. Anywho, what were we talking about?
We were talking about the British government's plans to British government admitted new feat to Apple, but we basically wrapped that topic up. So I think we're ready to wrap up the show.
Really?
Yep.
And there's no electric car news this week either, so...
Nope. This is just going to be a show that we'll wrap up for good. But as always, thank you all for joining in on watching or listening to another episode of TIFP or the iTunes Family Podcast. As always, I'm Teddy Maggart from the iTunes Fanboy.
My name is Alpha DeWolf from the Random Alpha.
And as always, we are signing off for now, and we'll be back the next time, hopefully with Tabby Cat 406. As always, goodbye and peace out.
See ya.